Hello once again. Cathar Love, number 70. The world at war on women. Wow. Actually, before I start, one receives various comments and most of them are quite complimentary, thankfully. If they weren't, I wouldn't keep going. But one lass said, she said, I like your wrinkles. So, another person once said to me, you look okay, John. She said, but she said, as far as your age is concerned, she said, it's your eyes that give you away. So I'm stuck with it, and that's what it is. Not much we can do about it, or I can do about it. But I feel fine in my own skin, actually. But the world at war with women, well, of course. There's pockets in the world and people in the world who are certainly not at war with women. But when one looks around, I was reading the statistics the other day, there's some 67 million child brides. I mean, not just under 18, I'm talking about child brides under the age of 14, 10, 11, 12, 8, 9. This is horrific. And it's in a range of religions and it's in many countries, and including Australia. Yeah, so a lass detained at the airport, looks like that she was being sent away. She was 9 or 10 years old to be a child bride. I don't know of any religion where women have equality, where there's equality of the sexes. And that's certainly, I'd say, the primary reason why I'm just simply not interested in religion. I mean, if this religion said, I'll have equality, now, I am obviously interested in Catharism, Gnosticism, which is one of the reasons that they're quite unique. And there's the fact that there is equality of the sexes. There's no, there's total equality in that respect. And it was the Cathars that brought that sexual equality back into Europe. And it was certainly the first group that gave women total equality as far as owning land, irrespective of what you were, high-born or low-born, you were equal. And of course this really upset the feudal system at the time, and so they were very happy to ally themselves with the church to eradicate the Cathars. But it's hard to keep a good idea down. So they were certainly one group, and in fact I possibly the only group that I know that not only had total equality but promoted it, promulgated it. So they was very happy at that time. This is why the courts of love thrived, and the troubadours who sang about love and politics, and so they thrived as well because there was the environment for them to thrive. But the world making war on women, I look at YouTube and I saw this interesting debate where this, it wasn't a debate, it was this imam. And he was telling this woman who was the anchor, the news anchor on a Saudi Arabian television set, and he said that she should cover her face. And she came back in no uncertain terms. She said, my face is my identity. And she just made him look like a fool, that he probably was, or just a religious parrot. And I witnessed another debate per YouTube, and was at the Oxford Union, and there was this Muslim lass, attractive, gay, short hair, and she was having a debate with a scholar, Islamic scholar, at the Oxford Union. And it was quite a scholarly debate. But she stood up and she said, I know the Quran as much as anybody. And she said, you know, there was this one particular imam down there, and he was questioning her about different things, and there was quite a little what you call a debate going on between the two of them. But she said, and I quote her, she said, in the Quran it says some 32 times that one must have critical thinking. Critical thinking, which means you listen to something, you read about something, and you go over it, and you make a judgment on it as to what it is. Critical thinking. And she said this was the Islam that of the scholars in the old days. She said now just people want their one version or trying to force it on everybody. Now this applies to other religions as well. And I was reading about which just came to light, and this is from a Mormon, its own website, and Joseph Smith, who's held in very, very high regard by most Mormons, and it appears that he had 40 wives, so he was a very busy guy. And so this was a surprise to a lot of people, and it was a surprise to a lot of Mormons. And his youngest was 14. She was a couple of months before her 15th birthday. And what the Mormons are out to do is get it all out in the open, so and at that from their website that they may as well get the actual truth. But in all these situations, Christianity, women are second-class citizens. It doesn't matter about the religions. I believe in Buddhism that a woman can be a Buddhist nun of 30 years, and yet the Buddhist monk of one day can virtually order her about. So it's a sad affair, and yet if we go back, it wasn't always like this. We go back to the Neolithic age, to the Stone Age, and there we had women goddesses, women gods. It was very often a matriarchal society. The women ran that society, and it's quite probably that it's the maternal instincts of women that brought society into existence in the first place. Debatable, arguable, and how's to prove it. So it seems to me that, generally speaking, males are out to control females, and this is where I call it a war, and in some cases between some couples it is war, but in any case there's this domination of women. I mean, it goes the Australian Aborigines. We look at even today in some of their societies there's polygamy, and who gets the women? It's the old guys. He gets the women. The poor young guys, they miss out. But the older guys have got 2 and 3 and 4 women, wives. So I'm not making any judgment on this, but this polygamy is existing at this level here, and that's for the older guys. China, you had as many wives and concubines as you could afford, and in many cases there was very good reasons for this. Obviously, when Muhammad was going around and having war after war after war and battle after battle, he made a lot of widows. So he introduced polygamy so that these wives of the dead soldiers, they had protection, and also the orphans. So this was the reason for the polygamy there. With the Mormon polygamy, I believe that the more wives you had, the more wives you had was the higher your place in heaven. So it's better to have 20 wives rather than 10 wives, until that was outlawed by the Mormons. So there's various reasons for this polygamy, but it's and it's so often at the woman's expense. I again watched another interesting video clip, and it was about the Kurdish women soldiers, and very, very effective. One of the reasons they're effective is because if you happen to be ISIS these days, and you know that there's women soldiers facing you, you're a little bit at ease, because for the simple reason, because if you cop a bullet that's been fired by a woman, you miss out on paradise, mate. You know, if you're killed by a woman, you don't get those 72 virgins. So I think it would be if there is a war against it, we want to need to put as many women in the front line as we possibly can. Already you've got a psychological advantage. But there's these Kurdish women, and if young ladies, if they don't want to get married or forced into a marriage, they can flee into the mountains, and there's one particular valley there that is run by women, and women are there, and they're women soldiers, no veils, long hair. They say, from their point of view, they say, we're not in the first millennium and Middle Ages. He said, we're modern, and we want to act modern. But men can go there, but men, if they go there, have to be demasculinized. They have to be purified. And what it really means is that men go there, they have to realize that when they go there, they have equality. Men and women have equality there, and they have to recognize that equality. So the women said, the Kurdish women are basically fighting for their human rights, but especially their rights as women, for equality, and not just equality for the Kurdish women. They want equality for all women throughout the world. Remarkable ladies, and they're doing a remarkable job in doing a lot of the fighting. So it seems to me, when we look at history, throughout history, even today, nobody, men who have the power, they are not going to relinquish power to women. Women, one way or the other, must take that power from men to give themselves equality, certainly sexual equality and so forth. And it's looking at history again, the First World War, but especially the Second World War, where the men literally were off fighting. The women had to work on the land, they had to work in the factories, had to work in the munitions. There was nothing in industry that women didn't do. And in fact, the Second World War emancipated a tremendous amount of women and gave them this equality, and they weren't going to go back. In Vietnam was a Confucius, Cao Dai, and a very, very strict Confucian society, and if you did not have a male in the family, you had no status. Nothing. You were nothing. You were a non-person. And so a tremendous amount of Vietnamese women were emancipated by both North and South by the Vietnam War. So it was one of the pluses. And in fact, I mentioned once before, there was this, I forget her name now, but she was, her family were wiped out in the flood in North Vietnam, in the Red River Delta, which floods, and the family were washed away. Her father had already died. He hadn't paid his taxes to the French, and he died in prison. So he was this lone orphan, and she ended up virtually as a slave, and she was pulling a buffalo instead of pulling the plough, and she was pulling it instead of a buffalo. But when the war started, she ran into the jungle. She was with some other women, and they organised a group, and they eventually became a larger group, and they became effective, and they gave them weapons, and they called them the long-haired soldiers. And she, and of course, as she got rank, because she was a good fighter, she then had to learn to read and write, and eventually she worked her way up, and she became a brigadier in the North Vietnamese army. So there's emancipation of a lady in spades. So we see this. We can look at the Mazdung and in China you had foot binding. Women were second class, and under Mao they were made they had equality. The communist revolution in Russia was very much the same thing. But in China they got rid of religion and they got rid of inequality as far as women is concerned. And so again, looking at history, looking at, so often it takes a revolution or a war or some such thing, some crisis within humanity, for women to be able to grab their rights that they're entitled to. I mean, if you believe in a deity, does the deity disdain one sex as against the other? You look two babies and you say, oh, you're a female, you're worthless. And this is how in many countries, there's still infanticide because it's the male that's what required. So how does this relate to the Cathars? Well, we know the Cathars, women had sexual emancipation. It's not only that, the Cathars disdained marriage. They said, you love somebody, you love them. If you love two people, you love two people. Marriage is, but that's putting it in the context of marriage. When the Cathars were around in the first millennium, you were bought as a chair or a chattel, as a cow. So this is another reason they weren't interested in marriage. They were interested in equality, sexual equality. So it's just in so many parts of the world today. I mean, that's in the news. In some countries, the amount of rapes that happen, and the women and the men don't even get jailed. It's because it's a part of virtually a part accepted in society. This is changing, but who's changing it? Over and over and over again, it's some remarkable woman or remarkable women who are standing up. And even in religion, there's no female rabbis until some women in America said, yes, there is, because we're going to be rabbis. And they became rabbis, but it wasn't given to them. So it appears that women have to fight just to gain, in so many countries, just to gain basic freedoms that men accept everywhere. And they don't want to be, as I did in the previous clip, what does every woman want? All women want sovereignty, and that is the right to simply be themselves, to discover who they are and simply be themselves and be the best that they can be. Bye. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.